You're listening to the Bears Barroom Radio Network, and the following program is suitable for all audiences.
A huge move for Chicago. We're obviously going to talk about Tom Brady a lot, but right now, Robert Quinn's deal with the Chicago Bears is what we are talking about.
Third and long. Pressure coming from Quinn, and he gets to him. Robert Quinn in his Cowboys debut. He's been getting close. Now he gets home for the sack.
Think about what Robert Quinn has accomplished here. The one-time sack champ way back in 2013 with the Rams. He goes to Miami, ends up getting traded to the Cowboys as the Dolphins are just trying to amass draft picks. Walks in there and goes out and has 11 and a half sacks for that Cowboys team last season.
Look out. From the backside, Robert Quinn.
He turns 30 years old in May, but you can see the value on pass rushers in this market. Robert Quinn at $14 million a year. The only guy who's probably going to get more than that is Jadeveon Clowney, who remains unsigned at this point.
Pressure from Quinn off the edge. And a sack, a loss of 12 as the Cowboys defense makes a play.
80 and a half sacks in his career and not yet 30 years old. Interesting to mention that part of it as well. And he will turn 30 this coming season in 2020.
As they get it away, but down he goes. Robert Quinn, the sackmeister now.
Welcome to Bearlissimo, the George Bayliss Show. My name is Aldo Gandia, and we have got a lot of free agency news to talk about. Two major signings for the Chicago Bears. On Monday, it was announced that Jimmy Graham, the tight end who played the last two seasons with the Green Bay Packers, is on his way to Chicago. And then today, on Tuesday, March 17th, Robert Quinn, a member of the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about those two players and many more with Bearlissimo. George Bayliss, how are you, my friend?
I am not too bad considering I have the coronavirus. I am surviving.
God.
Yeah, I'm over the hump of it already. So it felt like basically pneumonia and a bit of a virus, but we are self-isolating as a family, and we're all good. We're all okay. But I feel like I got a bit of a fever today, Aldo, with all these free agency signings. I'm actually probably a little bit more hyped. That Robert Quinn's got me feeling hot under the collar.
That is a really super nice signing for the Bears, and I bet that brought up the temperature a little bit. You don't need that, George. You don't need any more fever-inducing elements in your life. You got enough to deal with. You actually have the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they said from the symptom checker. I phoned up a professional. They phone you back rather than you going to the doctors over here. It's been really badly mismanaged in the UK, I've got to say. But from the symptom checker and obviously what I've been feeling, first sort of 2-3 days was really bad. Lots of pain in the lung area, tightness of breathing, although not difficulty breathing for me, which is why I've not gone to hospital. My symptoms, they said, no, stay away. Self-isolate, make sure you keep your fluids up and stuff like that. So that's what we've been doing so far, and I seem to be over the hump of it already. It's been sort of 3 days I've been dealing with it. Hasn't affected me going on Twitter and checking all of these news feeds. So I'm psyched and ready to go.
Oh, good. And I assume your wife is well and the kids as well?
Yeah, the wife's had a bit of a fever. Obviously, it's taken it out of us. We can't do some of the things that we would normally do during the daytime. But both of our kids are now off school. It looks like they're going to be off school till the end of Easter anyway, because it's only 2 weeks to the breakup anyway. So it looks like that's going to continue past there. We're just gonna start Easter early and have time as a family and Disney Plus starts soon over here in the UK, so that we're going to have lots of stuff to do.
Excellent. Well, we've got an excellent crowd in the chat room here on Mixlr.com. That's MIXLR.com. If you're listening to the podcast version on us and just want to join us in the chat room during our live shows, just go over to Mixlr.com. It is totally free to sign up. You'll get updates as to when we are live, and you can interact with the crowd in the chat room, ask questions, talk trash, whatever you want to do. And so, George, we've got to start with the news of the day. It's Robert Quinn signing this big contract with the Chicago Bears. Leonard Floyd is released by the Bears. This is a huge, huge, huge day for the Chicago Bears franchise in 2 or 3 different respects. It's Ryan Pace admitting that Leonard Floyd didn't work out, and it's acquiring perhaps the second best pass rusher available in free agency. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Robert Quinn, and what I love about him is he's one of the fastest guys off the ball in terms of getting upfield and getting penetration, which is what our defensive line does well, and it will help stunts and twists, because the more an offensive tackle has to jump to react to a guy, the deeper upfield he gets, and the more room Akeem Hicks inside of Robert Quinn gets. Akeem Hicks gets room, and they're going to have to double him. That means Eddie gets singled. If Eddie's getting singled, someone's going to have to help out with him. So guess what? With Khalil Mack and Roy Robertson Harris. So that one signing makes the whole of that defensive line so much better. I mean, the sack production this year for the Bears, I am anticipating. Obviously, it's not guaranteed. We've got to stay healthy. But the sack difference between this year and last year, and subsequently that pressure, that speed off the line, is going to make... The breaking news, thanks Wasram, Kevin Pierre-Louis is a Washington Redskin.
Wow.
So, yeah, we got breaking news already. There we go, via the chat room. So get in the chat room if you want the breaking news.
That's right.
Sorry to see him go, but we're going to come on to some of the guys that we've lost a little bit later. Robert Quinn, what can you say? 80 sacks so far. He's someone I've liked since he came out in the draft. For all the reasons that he's displayed in the league. He's got great bend and dip around the edge. He's super quick off the line. He has really nice counters, really good hand usage. His dip and rip is fantastic. He also goes after the ball. So the Khalil Mack thing, where rather than getting sacks per se, he's taking the ball out of the quarterback's hand. So expect to see more turnovers and shorter fields. Who are you going to block? At the end of the day, if it's a passing down, an obvious passing down, and we have Eddie Jackson on the back end. So if you want to just throw it up, Eddie Jackson's going to pick it off. You've still got Kyle Fuller there that's going to press and cause trouble. You've got the younger guys in our secondary. You've got Roquan Smith, who is super fast when he blitzes. Mm-hmm. Danny Trevathan, also a very good blitzer. You've got Eddie Goldman to worry about up front in the center of that center of that offensive line. You've got Roy Robertson Harris coming up here. Yes. You've got Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, and obviously Quinn. I mean, and that's the thing for me. Quinn is a legitimate threat. Him and a healthy Akeem Hicks is going to make Khalil Mack's production go up, and that makes obviously offensive just nightmares. Who are they going to block?
Yeah.
People are talking about they're worried about Robert Quinn with his run defense, but for me, he's got Akeem Hicks inside him. He's got Eddie Goldman in. What are we worried about?
Mm-hmm. I am totally with you there. Here's one issue that was brought up by the folks over at Pro Football Focus. I know you saw it on Twitter. I got a little clip from Sam Monson.
This is PG, right?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, I'm going to try and stay PG.
Yes, keep it that way, please. Okay, here it is.
Wow, the Chicago Bears just gave Robert Quinn what is effectively Danielle Hunter's contract. Now, okay, the guaranteed money is significantly more for Hunter than it was for Robert Quinn, but 5 years, $70 million, 30 of which is guaranteed. But let's compare those two players for a start, because last season, Danielle Hunter had 30 more total pressures than Robert Quinn did, and 10 more added in the playoffs that Robert Quinn didn't even feature in. Their overall PFF grades, we're talking a 20-point advantage to Danielle Hunter. And then the big concern for me is Robert Quinn has shown in the past he cannot play well as a stand-up edge rusher, and the Bears still use those guys a lot like that. So he might be a like-for-like replacement with Leonard Floyd, but they're going to need to deploy him as a hand-in-the-ground pass rusher for this to work at all.
Your thoughts on what Sam Monson over at Pro Football Focus has to say about Robert Quinn?
Technical difficulties.
We'll wait for George to join us. I'm sure he'll be back with us shortly. And I will say this about what Sam Monson just said. First of all, to compare the contract signed by Danielle Hunter with what the Bears have just paid, his computer is dying. He just said to me, so I'm going to call his phone in just a second. Let him get set up, and then we'll fix that. But just to compare these contracts is ridiculous. The collective bargaining agreement has just been ratified. It goes into effect in 2021, but that means that the pool of money available for players raises dramatically. And so therefore the players are going to get a bigger piece of the pie. So you can't make that comparison. You just can't do it. It's ridiculous. And what Sam doesn't list on his diatribe, because everyone that follows Sam on Twitter sort of gets the sense that this guy just doesn't like Bears general manager Ryan Pace. Hey, right now I'm not sure I like him either, but it seems like every opinion that he offers about the Chicago Bears is clouded by this bigotry, for lack of a better way of putting it, towards the Chicago Bears and the team's general manager. It seems like they can do nothing right, so it's always a negative. I don't think I've ever seen Sam or some of the leadership guys over at PFF praise the Bears in any way. It's everything they do is wrong. Now, that was my little rant. Let me see if I can get my man George back on the phone here.
Hello.
Hey, George.
Hi.
I can hear you fine. I just did a little rant while you were away saying that it appears to me that Sam Monson just has it out for the Chicago Bears. They can't do anything right. In his eyes, he's always nitpicking this and the whole idea of just comparing salaries that were signed in different years. It's ridiculous because the cap goes up and that makes more money available, and so the average salary goes up. That was my rant, but let's hear yours because I'm sure it'll be much more eloquent than mine.
Well, they say if you can't be nice, don't say anything. So I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible. Sam Monson has made a living analysing stats and looking at just statistical information devoid of any appreciation of actually playing the game or knowing what it's like to put on a helmet and play the game. As far as I'm aware, he has no playing experience whatsoever. I might be corrected by someone on that, but he certainly talks like that's the case. When it comes to evaluating, you can't, like you just said, you can't just look at statistical information or comparison of contracts. You've got to look at the situation. You've got to look at the players they've gone up against, what kind of attention have they had as a player. That defensive line and that defensive scheme of the Vikings gets a lot of pressure anyway. So all of the guys along that defensive line, both of the edge guys, do well. Obviously, Danielle Hunter's got his own issues away from the field as well that he's had to deal with. We don't have those concerns as much. Obviously, he had some concerns earlier in his career, Robert Quinn, but he seems to be over all of those now. With regards to, he's been a model citizen in terms of being at the Rams. He couldn't really have done much more than he's already done in terms of production on the field. He's been a consistent producer on the field. You have issues, obviously, when it comes to Danielle Hunter and what he's done over the years. He's been up and down, more spiky in terms of his production. So, yeah, it's all very well and good to just look at it in isolation like that. But, I mean, one is just the 4-3 end, which is what he is, and that's what he's always been. I think you've got a lot more versatility and speed off the edge in terms of what you get with Robert Quinn. So, yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Aldo, in terms of it's nonsense. At the end of the day, I mean, PFF obviously makes a living. They do well out of what they're doing, and I applaud them for, having a business model that does well for them, and they've all got jobs, and that's nice, and, yeah, they're getting paid to do what they do, and I'm not getting paid to do what I do, neither are you. But at the end of the day, it's a tool which is used by a weak argument, basically, to prop up whatever narrative you want to create. In terms of when you look at the players on the field, they're both good players. I know who I would rather have out of the two if you give me a straight option. and that's the guy that we've got, particularly with the way that he fits in terms of what we need off the edge, which is upfield penetration quickly, and that ability to get around the edge and to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands to create turnovers and mayhem in the backfield. There's nothing worse as an offensive lineman than when you're constantly thinking, I've got to be super fast out of my stance. Well, extrapolate that to being at Soldier Field when it's really loud, and you're an offensive lineman who's going to be off the snaps. It's not just the production in terms of having to pass block someone. You've also got to look at the fact that, these guys are going to be jumping offside more often. These guys are going to be, half thinking about what they're going to do on the next play, and maybe half less attention on what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, they're going to be professionals, but they're human at the end of the day. And if you've got an option where you could have Akeem Hicks running outside and Quinn stunting on the inside, you could have him just on a straight outside rush. There's so many things to worry about that, concerning contracts and comparing stats against two people who are both productive. It adds no value to the conversation as far as I'm concerned. So we'll leave PFF at doing what they do, which is create bait and conversation pieces, which is great. It's always good to talk about these things. But equally, in terms of as an evaluation, you can use tools and metrics, and advanced data now is helpful in some ways, but you've also got to look at it as a whole in terms of what does the guy do on the field? How does he affect the guys that he's going up against? How does he affect your team in terms of what that means for the rest of the defence? Like I say, we've got team speed is something that I know Shane has preached about and Phil has preached about at length. That's improved today in terms of get off, in terms of craft, in terms of the ability to get after the quarterback and take the ball out of his hands. Yeah, Leonard Floyd, thank you for all the games that you did against Green Bay when you actually turned up, but that was the sum of what he did for us, I'm afraid. That's the most impactful things that he managed to get done for the Bears.
There you go.
So thank you very much. Best of luck with whoever it is that signed you. Probably going to be Denver if all the rumours turn out to be true. But best of luck, Leonard, in whatever you're doing next. But and thanks for all of your effort on the field, such that it was.
Absolutely. And just one more comment on this PFF Sam Monson thing. Shane in the chat room writes that all Pro Football Focus numbers are always presented without context. They're looking for a reaction, and that is so true. When I first heard that, what Sam left out of his diatribe there was the amount of snaps these players have played. He talked about Danielle Hunter having double the amount of quarterback pressures. Guess what? He had double the amount of defensive snaps. He had 1,029 defensive snaps, and Quinn had 658. That's 81% of the defensive snaps for Hunter and only 60% for Quinn. So efficiency, effectiveness is more on Robert Quinn's side. So it's a totally bogus argument for Monson to do that. And that's what they do over there. It is bias. It's bigoted presentations against certain teams. And they love to pick on the Chicago Bears because of the fan base and the interaction that they get on Twitter. They're just riling us up. And so we'll move on to the next topic.
Monson, let's not forget, Monson is a Green Bay Packer fan.
That's right. I forgot that.
It's out there. I mean, it's out there. So let's just take it with that pinch of cheese, and we'll ignore it and move on.
Oh, that is great. And you're absolutely right about Leonard Floyd. I appreciate that you say that because, listen, it didn't work out for him. But this is more on Ryan Pace, I believe, than it is on Leonard Floyd. This was another reach athlete, just like Mitchell Trubisky was a reach at number 2, just like Kevin White was a reach at number 7. Leonard Floyd was a reach at 2. I don't think there was anybody that really expected him to be a top 10 pick. Maybe the New York Giants were rumored to be looking at him, but I just, the tape, I remember during his collegiate days that Draft Dr. Phil and Lauren Cox, now over at the Bears Wire, they were putting up tape and just, Leonard Floyd was just being blown off the line of scrimmage. And yes, while he was doing some incredible things with his speed and athleticism and playing all sorts of different positions, he certainly didn't present tape to be an excellent pass rusher.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you saw with Leonard Floyd pre-draft process was the thing you saw with him with the Bears. He was a jack of all trades, master of none. And that's kind of the way that he played. I mean, at Georgia, they didn't even know where to play him. Was he an edge rusher? Was he a down lineman? Was he a middle linebacker?
Yeah.
Well, he was all those things at Georgia, and he was he was none of them to the top level. He was a good athlete. Mm-hmm. He timed well. He jumped far. He jumped high. He was nice and long, tall. He's got all these attributes that you like from an edge player, but none of the production. And you have to look in terms of, if you're going to be realistic, and particularly with the first round picks. Okay, so what's the consistent issue that we've seen with Ryan Pace's picks in the first round? He's looked at guys who are athletes first.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Without fail, in the first round. He's always looked at guys who are athletes first. So who has he picked? Mitch Trubisky ran the fastest 40, looked good at the throwing in shorts at the combine. But what did he actually have in terms of production? 1 year as a starter. Kevin White, 1 year as a starter out of JUCO. But lots of production in that 1 year, but only 1 year and very limited route tree. Was he ready to be your first round picks should be ready to come in and start day one if called upon. Obviously, quarterback is slightly different because they're expected to do more. But as a play caller in year one, you can modify the playbook to suit the guy that you've got behind centre. So the constant issues that we see with these first round picks is we're picking athletes first. We're not necessarily picking production. Leonard Floyd wasn't particularly a big producer. I mean, he played a couple of years at Georgia, but he played all over the place. He didn't play in one position. Like I say, we've already gone through Kevin White and Mitch Trubisky. So that's kind of the issue. And then the second round, the other bad pick that he's had, Shaheen. Great measurables, looks like a real athlete. Fantastic, nice, big, fast, tall, all the rest of it. But he played Division 2 at the end of the day. So he better be outstanding, particularly when you've got guys that are playing in the Big Ten with Kittle and producing and playing really, really well. And obviously so. Could have had Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, what did he do? Start all of his career at high school, start all of his career in college, and win the Heisman and win national championships. Might that have been a better option than possibly Mitch Trubisky in terms of 1 year starter and limited snaps both in high school and in the collegiate ranks? Yeah, well, in hindsight, it's all 2020, isn't it? But what I want to see moving forward from Ryan Pace, particularly when we're looking at the second round this year, is he better be looking at guys who have actually played and produced on the field. The more tape you have on them, the more you are sure what it is that you're getting. The less you have, you can get, like watching a highlight tape. If you watch a highlight tape, everyone looks like a fantastic player. You get
That's right.
When you look at it. It is. It's the same. You're seeing a guy who's flashed in 1 year of starting. Well, great. Okay, so how's he done when it's not been going well for him? How's he done when he's been playing hurt? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have, like with Bryson Hopkins tape, you look at it, he's played all 4 years. Mm-hmm. He's been there. He had a limited start, but you've seen constant improvement. You've seen from high school, he played all of his years at high school. So you've got plenty of tape there to look at him and say, yeah, he's a consistently good route runner. He's consistently, an effort blocker, position blocker, and we saw him improving that. So when you're evaluating the tape on these guys, that's what you're kind of looking at, is the greater the sample size, the more sure you can be with what you're getting. And that's what I think that Ryan Pace has potentially been seduced by metrics, how a player looks, how many of the bear stickers they got on the wall in that draft room that we seem to always hear about.
Yeah.
It always seems to be about those sort of things rather than, has the guy actually produced and at what level? Because, when you're looking at guys, Burrow, that's the one thing that people are scared about with Burrow. I mean, the thing is with Burrow, you can see that the decision-making is next level. It's apparent on tape. He reads the field and he knows exactly where he's going with the ball. And if it breaks down, he just is able to create on the move. But you would still be, potentially, that's what I'm sure that the Cincinnati Bengals are concerned with, is are we being seduced by that when we could go for someone who started for several years, like Tua Tagovailoa, even with the injury, that's something that they've got to look at because he's produced at the very top level for the very top, or one of the very top collegiate teams in the NCAA. So that's what you have to evaluate when you're looking at these guys in the first round, and that's where I think that Ryan Pace has fallen down, if I'm being truthful.
Yeah. Well, I have to agree, and I think I should isolate that message and send it as a gift to the Chicago Bears, and let's keep Ryan Pace away from those weigh-ins at the Senior Bowl when he's looking at those guys in their shorts. He's falling in love with body types as opposed to real football players. I mean, that's been the rule with so many successful general managers. You keep hearing that over and over again. Can they play football? I don't care about the size. I don't care about the 40. I care about heart and are they football players? And I think that's what I hear you saying. Don't fall in love with these metrics as much as can these guys perform on the gridiron. So I'm totally with you.
I mean, the metrics do have a place.
Sure.
I mean, but it should never be to do anything other than confirm what it is that you see on tape.
Yep.
So let's take Denzel Mims. I know we're going off on a tangent.
That's okay.
And it tends to happen when you're feeling a bit feverish. But Denzel Mims. So what do we see on tape? Okay, we see straight line speed. Okay, 4.37 in the 40. Yeah, we're seeing that. Okay, we see him elevate to jump for the ball. Okay, he jumped 38 inches in the vertical. Yeah, so that's confirmed. What I see him, particularly in his breaks, is he dips in and gets out really quickly out of his breaks. What did we see in the 3-cone? 6.66. The fastest 3-cone at the combine. So when you're looking at the tape, I was seduced off the tape watching Denzel Mims. I'm not going to lie. It was very apparent to me very early on, and I'm not going to say which episode and all the rest of it. Who cares? But watching the tape early on in the year, sort of October time, it was very apparent to me. Yeah, every receiver is going to double catch a ball every now and again, but the guy consistently gets open. The guy's consistently downfield. The guy consistently gets yards after the catch. The guy's consistently a threat, even though everyone knows he's the threat on that team. You look at the production and you look at what you see on the tape, and then that's confirmed what you see at the combine, and that's the way it should be. Not necessarily, oh, there's combine guy, he's looking really fantastic. Look how fast he is. Let's go and look at the tape, and then there's nothing to look at. There's a reason why he probably hasn't been playing.
I get you. Now, when you look at the tape, do you see a Jimmy Graham that can still play at a high level? Because that's the big tight end acquisition for the Chicago Bears. It was announced on Monday that Graham is coming to the Chicago Bears on a 2-year deal, $9 million guaranteed, so it's probably, a 1 year and you can get out of it kind of deal. What do you think about the move overall, and watching him play for the Packers over the last 2 years? Do you think he's got anything left?
Yes, he's definitely got something left. I mean, he's shown in flashes last year. Someone's already put out some highlights of his play last year. When given the opportunity to catch the ball, he did well with it in his hands. Yeah, he had some struggles. He had a higher drop rate than he's had historically last year. I could just see in the chat room, I'm just going to try not to look at that shame with the comments there. But this is why you need to be in the chat room, people. You need to look at this sort of stuff. That's quite funny. Right, so Graham, he's older. So let's deal with the negatives first. He's older. He's not as fast as he was. He was an elite athlete. He's still a good athlete. Yes. He's not an elite athlete. He's always been a decent blocker, although he's not been asked to do it that much. When he does do it, he does it well. So we kind of know that he's older. He's sort of on the downslope of his career. He's still better than anything that we have at tight end right now as it stands. He is the best tight end on our team. Proven. Okay? So let's look at what he brings off the field, because this is where I think the positives are. You've got someone who is probably better at route running than probably anyone on the team that does not know Dan Robinson. Okay? So at the tight end position, he is a vet. We have a very inexperienced tight end room as a whole. Okay? So we've got an ex-basketball player that we just got from the Chiefs that we signed. He's 1 or 2 years starting. He's learning on the job. What better person for someone to make that transition and learn from? And the Darian, the guy, the USC that we had on the network as well, that we interviewed, can't remember his surname. I'm sure someone in the chat room is going to have his name. But he is going to be able to let ex-basketball players learning the tight end position. Who are they going to learn from? Jimmy Graham. What did he do in college? Played basketball and football. Okay, he's outstanding in terms of what he can bring to that room, in terms of his vet presence, in terms of knowing how to release off the line of scrimmage, both at split wide or at the line, as an inline tight end, a Y or a U tight end. He's done all of that. He can split him out wide. You can motion him. He understands coverages. He can elucidate to his colleagues in that meeting room what kind of coverages are we like to see in this side of the field. He's seen all of these teams for years and years and years. He knows what each player is going to do. That's the kind of stuff that Jimmy Graham is going to. It's not just what he produces on the field. We all talked about Chase Daniel, what he brought for Mitch Trubisky, which wasn't much of anything. Congratulations on signing your deal, by the way, with Detroit. But what Jimmy Graham brings for me is he's going to be someone, along with the tight ends coach, Clancy Barroom, he's going to be someone who instantly you look at and gravitate towards because he's been there, he's seen it, he's done it, he's produced at the top levels pretty much everywhere he's been. Yes, he's on the downside of his career, but he's still a very good tight end. And certainly in terms of the guys who are out there, the most proven probably that's left.
Over at the Chicago Tribune, there was a scout, and this was a couple of years ago when he was signed by the Green Bay Packers. A scout offered to Brad Biggs some pointers, not pointers, but some analysis of Jimmy Graham, saying after he had the knee injury in 2000 and what was that, the year 2014, I believe, 2015, he had a patellar tendon in his right knee, that he has lost his speed since then, but his strength is in the red zone, that in between the 20s, he's not going to be the same kind of guy that he was with Seattle and make those kind of big plays. But where he is a very dangerous player is in that red zone. And if that analysis still holds up, then that is really what Adam Shaheen was supposed to bring to this team, is that big end zone target so that Allen Robinson doesn't get double teamed when he's not in that red zone area. So your thoughts on those thoughts that were shared by this NFL scout?
Yeah, I think you can actually extrapolate that and take it further. You can say that he's going to be a third down target as well. So it's not just red zone, he's going to be a third down target. So when you need to move the chains, he's going to know where that mark is. He's that's what I'm saying with it. He's so savvy. He knows where the holes are. He knows where the soft seam is. He knows how to uncover. He knows how to use a bit of body to leverage himself away from coverage. He can catch it, whether it's at his feet, whether it's up high. He can still got the hops. I mean, obviously, we've seen that last year as well. He can still elevate and get above people. The size you can't teach. You're not going to see him catch a ball down the seam and run away from people. But we've got Trey Burton's pretty quick.
Yep.
He can do that kind of thing. This guy that we signed from the Chiefs is pretty quick.
Yep.
He can do that sort of thing. And if we do draft someone like a Bryson Hopkins, let's say for example, pretty please Ryan Pace. If we do draft Bryson Hopkins, then he could certainly do that. If you want someone to catch it and do it, that's not a bad place to be in terms of having someone to learn from. And that's the thing, is that savvy of a third down target, reliable. He's going to get to the yards that you need in terms of the marker. He's going to be able to uncover, and he's not going to be phased in the headlights. He's not going to be a deer in the headlights. The big moments, he's going to still be there. And that's the thing that we've seen other players that are on the roster, without being, again, disparaging, we've seen other players on the roster where it's been big moments and they've shied away. And I think it's fairly obvious who I'm talking about there. So for me, that's kind of the thing. In the biggest moments, that's when you go to your biggest players. And if you've got a pressure situation, you need 8 yards for a first down, and you've got Allen Robinson, which is going to take the attention of the defense away. Well, it's not bad to have a Jimmy Graham on there, is it? You can literally just throw the ball up to and he can go up and get it.
You touched on one of the questions I had for you, which was Bryson Hopkins or any of the other second-round caliber tight ends that are out there. I put up a poll on Twitter at Bears Barroom. If you folks are on Twitter and want to interact with us on that social media channel. And my question was, should the Bears kind of discount targeting a tight end in the second round? My thinking is that Graham is a bridge tight end. You really can't expect him to play into that second year of the contract, or if he does, then definitely he's not going to play more than 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears. And so should the Bears go out after a young tight end and have him develop under Jimmy Graham? Based on what I just heard you say definitely, huh?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to take the guys that are going to impact the most. And there's going to be likely a run on quarterbacks. There's going to be a run on offensive tackles in the first round. There's going to be some edge guys and some defensive linemen taken. There's going to be wide receivers taken, cornerbacks, maybe a safety or two. Well, if you can get a running back at the top of two, even a running back, if you can get the best running back in the draft when we're on the clock, you'd be mad not to take him. Mm-hmm. Tight end, there's going to be your pick, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I am assuming, looking at the way that it is at the moment, I would suggest that there's likely to be either your 1 pick or your 1A or your 1B, whoever that is, in terms of tight end. So if you can get your top player at tight end, or you can get the 6th, 7th, 8th best offensive tackle that you're not really 100% on, you take the guy who's the top of your board at the end of the day. You take the best talent.
Absolutely.
And for me, like I say, when I've looked at Brian Hopkins, I'm seeing someone who runs routes like a receiver. When I say that, I don't mean he's a little bit soft. I mean he gets into and out of his breaks. He sets up leverage. The way that he's covered by a linebacker or safety, he sets them up to be able to beat them. He's got route savvy. And that's the thing that I like about him. And if you've got, the more weapons you have, the more difficult it is to just stack the box with 7 or 8, which we see consistently when Trubisky is at QB. They just dare us to run on it, and we haven't been able to because we've not had the push up front to be able to get 3 or 4 yards on first down, running it. And then obviously when you're looking at passing it, well, if you've got 7 or 8 in the box, all of those 7 or 8 could come. So you're going to have to leave more people in, which means that you've got maybe 2 people on an actual route. It's not that difficult to actually cover 2 people when you've got 4 or 5 back. So that's been the problem with last year with the offense with the Bears. Mm-hmm. Was that seemed to be the thing. Everyone just came up to the line of scrimmage on first and second down in long distance and said, okay, yeah, all right, run on us because we know you're not going to pass on us because we could be coming on a blitz. So that's kind of where I am with what we're going on with there.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the other side of the ball because I wanted to talk about that safety position opposite Eddie Jackson. There was a report from Brad Biggs that one safety that could emerge as a possibility is Carl Joseph, the former
which I love.
The former first round. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've talked about him before, haven't we? When we did the precursor to all of this, and I'm not going to refer back to the episodes because I know how the guys at 100 Proof love to talk about me talking about myself. But yeah, Carl Joseph was someone that we looked at as being a potential from the Raiders that we might be able to bring. That obviously he had an injury last year that kept him off the field. But if you want an in-the-box guy who can always be a linebacker who is very athletic, very fast, and can really intimidate people up front, and also brings added value as their blitzer, he is the guy that you would love to see. As think about that pass rush. Okay, if they're throwing the ball on slants to get the ball out early, and you've got Carl Joseph coming at you at 22, 23 miles an hour and not slowing down as a receiver, there's only going to be so many times you catch that ball before it starts getting to the point. Well, I'm not getting myself killed. I'm going to start covering up because he's going to intimidate people. Yes. So yeah, he would be someone that I would love the Bears to get. I mean, obviously, none of us know where we are with the cap right now, but there are moves that the Bears can make in terms of restructuring people, extending an Allen Robinson and getting his cap number down for this year and extending it into the future. These are all options that smarter people than I are able to put together for the Bears to create whatever cap room they want, pretty much. So if we can extend an Allen Robinson, if we can restructure a Khalil Mack and get a bit of extra cap room, then there's still loads of stuff that we can do to get a Carl Joseph. Like I say, if he's not already signed in this tampering period, his value is likely to increase, unless he's had offers and has turned them down, but we haven't heard any chatter with regards to that. So if the Bears are interested in him, and it starts to look, if you're Carl Joseph and you want to prove it, Dale, after coming out of an injury, and you look at the Bears' defensive front 7 now, Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack, Roy Robertson, Harris, already Goldman, Bilal Nichols, Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan back and fit and healthy, Roquan Smith. If you've got that as your front 7, you're thinking, well, I'm known as a hitter, and if they're going to be throwing short passes, I'm going to get to do loads of hitting.
Absolutely.
So what better place to go if you want to be an in-the-box safety that's going to make an impact in and around the line of scrimmage and in the short areas? What better place to be in the Chicago Bears right now? Because on the back end, you can be in the box because Eddie's got that. What is it to say? 80% of the world's surface is covered by 20% covered by land, the rest is covered by Eddie Jackson.
That's right.
It's kind of if you're in the box safety of Carl Joseph, who loves coming up and hitting people, you're going to have free runs. There's nobody who's going to be coming to the second level to come and block you, because no one is going to get past Roquan Smith or Danny Trevathan and that defensive line. There's going to be two people on Khalil Mack. There's going to be at least one and a chip probably on Robert Quinn. So what better place to be? Yeah, get him in, sign him, let's get it done.
Let's get it done. But Ryan Pace last year waited until about as long as you could wait when he signed Clinton Dix to that 1-year prove-it deal. So we'll see if he's going to take that same approach and try to find some value, and maybe guys like Tony Jefferson or Trey Boston could maybe be available in 3 or 4 weeks at a much more affordable price, or will he be aggressive and go after a guy immediately this week in the next couple of days or so? So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
I think Jimmy Ward is still out there as well, Aldo.
Jimmy Ward is, he was just released, correct? Of the 49ers?
That's right.
Yeah.
Which means if you want to sign a Jimmy Ward, he wouldn't cost against cap. He wouldn't cost against the compensation formula.
Yep.
So when you're looking at getting compensation picks, obviously Nick Kwiatkowski, Chase Daniel has signed a quite large contract. Nick Williams has signed quite a large contract. So there's 3 there already. Yeah, we've signed Robert Quinn, which means one of those picks goes. So there's potentially 2 extra picks there next year. So if you're picking up guys who have been released from a contract that are free agents now, those don't count, as far as I understand it anyway, those don't count against your compensation formula. So Jimmy Ward has been released by the 49ers. If he goes a little bit later, he'd be another guy that'd be great in the box.
Yep, that's exactly what Mitchell Joseph Galloway in the chat room says. He says he loves Jefferson, and he doesn't hurt with the comp picks. Lady Bear 83 says that she likes Trey Boston or Von Bell. What do you think about Von Bell?
Von Bell's probably the best box safety out there, and I understand that Jenkins has just been released as well. So Malcolm Jenkins might be a shout. So Tony Jefferson, Malcolm Jenkins, Von Bell, all of those games would be great. Trey Boston, he's great in terms of that type of safety that I'm certainly looking at, that sort of in the box enforcer that is also able to cover. So I mean, those guys. Looks like Shane says that Jimmy Ward signed a long-term deal, apparently. Yeah. So he's out of the equation. But the rest of these guys are all still there. So you've got to be smart with it. I mean, if you get them, then it would make sense. And obviously, in terms of if you want, I mean, that thing with Malcolm Jenkins, with him being released, that would be absolutely fantastic to get him in. Because if you think about what he did to the Bears in terms of covering Tariq Cohen and really affecting the game plan, the guy is clearly a tape study. He's clearly very smart, and he's still a very good player. So absolutely, he would be a fantastic name to bring in. And again, he's been released, so he wouldn't count against that compensation formula. So him, Tony Jefferson are the 2 guys that you're looking at potentially if you're not worried about comp pick. And obviously you've got Von Bell. You've got the other guys that we've already discussed that would be there that would count against it. So obviously then it depends upon what the value of the contract is as to how it affects any comp pick. But I think at the end of the day, we're worried about filling out the back end of the defence and not necessarily worrying about comp picks. I mean, that's going to take care of itself. But it pays to be smart if you can. So Tony Jefferson for me, or Malcolm Jenkins, who's just been released. With either of those 2 names alongside Eddie Jackson would be fantastic on the back end for the Bears. And good for the defensive secondary in general, just as guys who have been there, seen it, done it, know what to look for in the actual tape study and can educate the younger guys in the roster.
Yeah, somebody who can compliment Eddie Jackson a little more than HaHa did. Hey, George, if you were watching U.S. sports TV at all, it was nothing but Tom Brady this, Tom Brady that, Tom Brady this, Tom Brady that. I guess with all the sports leagues closed down, it just kind of amplified the talking heads on television and radio just talking about Tom Brady. That is, of course, the big news in the NFL is that Tom Brady sent out a an Instagram post saying that it's time to move on. He will not return to the New England Patriots. So obviously the speculation is going on. Is it at all possible that Tom Brady could come to the Chicago Bears? Your thoughts, please.
No.
No, because
because
of the money, because of the money, or because of his play.
I think there's lots of factors. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want someone to read a defense and to be able to sort of know instantly where to go to and to be able to pitter-patter down the field, then he's that guy. But all of your RPO stuff goes out the window straight away. He's just so different from what we've got. We'd have to change the offense to fit Tom Brady, realistically. Yes, he'd be able to run some of the offense, but the whole concepts you'd have to abandon because he just literally wouldn't be able to run them in our offense. So I don't see, with what we know about Matt Nagy and his reticence to change things from BU, which is him, that we're talking about, I can't see him necessarily, as great as it would be to sell jerseys. I'm sure the McCaskies would love it. I mean, he would sell out an awful lot of jerseys. It would be great for the media. It would instantly make the team more attractive from that point of view. But at the age that he is, with the talents that he has physically, it's an awful lot to commit to. You're retooling and re-scheming and changing all of that again. And I think what we need to do is have the offense, run guys who fit it. Breaking news: Mitchell Galloway has just said Vic Beasley to Tennessee 1 year, $9.5 million. So that's another edge rusher. But
is that the type of money you anticipate? The type of money you anticipate Leonard Floyd will sign with?
I think he'll probably be less than that, if I'm honest. I think he's going to be sort of the $6 to $7 million kind of range, maybe. That would be a good deal for Leonard if he could get round about that sort of money.
Interesting.
I can't. I think he's probably more of a fit. You need to look at him as a strong side linebacker, I think. A 4-3 team, if they're after a strong side linebacker, he would fit that down to a T. Someone who can cover a tight end, someone who's good against the run, someone who's athletic and can chase sideline to sideline. He'd kind of fit that kind of team. As a 3-4 outside guy, he offers you nothing in pass rushing, and that instantly limits what you're going to do defensively, because people know that realistically the pressure is not going to be coming from whichever side he is, unless he loops on a stud. If that's the only thing that he does with any efficacy, is looping on stunts and coming late as a delayed blitzer. That's because of the athleticism. So it would limit a 3-4 team more than it would a 4-3 team. I think a 4-3 team, which I think, I'm not sure if Denver are running a 4-3 under Vic, might still be 3-4.
Yeah, it is 3-4, I believe.
Yeah, might still be 3-4, though he might be retooling that defense, who knows. But it would make sense for him to sign for a 4-3 team, as from what I see from him in terms of production. That would be where the value would be. But again, it's going to take a GM to look at him that's been a 3-4 linebacker all the time that he's been in the league and say, yeah, that would fit what we need from a strong side linebacker.
Got a question here from TZITZIS.
Costa.
There you go.
Costa.
The man from down under. He says, how likely is it that we draft an inside linebacker now that we do not have a solid backup?
Well, I don't know about the solid backup thing yet. I mean, in terms of Kevin Pierre-Louis and Nick Kwiatkowski have gone, I think people need to look at the end of last season at Joel Iyiegbuniwe and to see what he did when he came in, because a lot of people are slating him, saying that he can't do it, etc. If you actually watch the last couple of games of the season, go back and watch the All-22. He is very fast on the field. He's very good in terms of understanding his own responsibilities in pass coverage, and he's quick. So it would make sense for him to be one of the names. And Josh Woods as well played well. I mean, he overcommitted a little bit for me, Josh Woods. I think he was maybe trying to do too much in the end of the season. But certainly in terms of ability, I'd probably be more enthused about those guys in terms of their ability to cover in the pass, because they don't need to be elite run defenders with our defensive line for me at the inside linebacker position. Yeah, they've got to be able to know where their responsibilities and run and fill. But they don't necessarily need to be, elite thumpers who are going to come up and every single play have to take on a guard, because you've got Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols, Roy Robertson, Harris up front that are going to take the attention of offensive linemen. So for me, those guys deserve a chance. Yeah, there is a possibility we take linebacker, and if one drops, if one is outstanding value, yeah, you would take them. But I think there's probably going to be some projects that are going to be available as UDFAs that none of us are talking about. Like I say, there's an awful lot of wide receivers going to get taken this year. There's a lot of defensive backs that are going to get taken this year. Tight ends. There's lots of positions that are going to be saturated, I think, in this draft, because it's just very strong at those positions. That means somewhere else, where I think linebacker is not as strong as it has been in other years, that might be something where there is a project for you to pick up later on. Someone who has been considered, a one or a two down player that's come off the field on third down, that might be able to give you what you've lost in terms of what Quick adds to the team. And obviously, there's always going to be vet people released as well as part of this free agency process. There's going to be a linebackers released from somewhere.
Absolutely. All right, let's get back to the topic of quarterback here. I think that's a great way to close the show because it's a hot topic here in Chicago. Clearly, Tom Brady is not coming to Chicago. The word is that he's probably going to announce in the next day or two that he's going to Tampa Bay. So anyone who was hoping for Tom Brady, your dream is probably not going to come true. And Bearlissimo doesn't want him anyway. So we'll move on. Now, Teddy Bridgewater appears like he's going to be out of the picture too. Carolina Panthers are set to be negotiating a 3-year deal with him. So what does that leave for the Chicago Bears? Your thoughts on who the Chicago Bears should pursue, because the cat's out of the bag. It was announced yesterday that the Bears are looking for a veteran, and it certainly looks like that is indeed a fact. Your thoughts?
So the fact that you've led with that news that the Panthers have gone the way that they've gone, it kind of leads me to think you were pushing me down an alley there, Aldo. Yeah, I think there's a strong possibility that, and there's talk that they're trying to get him traded. If you're a seller in the NFL, you're in a weak position. He does have a higher value contract, bearing in mind he's had significant injuries that have really affected his ability to throw the ball. I mean, there's been times where they've needed a Hail Mary, where they've sent a reserve QB on the field just to be able to throw it down the field. With what's going on with the restriction of movement and the ability to actually look at players to see whether they're still injured, what the state of that injury is, and things like that, it means it's less likely that Cam Newton gets a significant trade value, because people are going to be too concerned about that those injuries. Which means, the Panthers, they have extended Kyle Allen, which is their young QB that came in and filled in for him and did very, very well for the Panthers last year. And obviously they've spent a lot of money in terms of what they've just brought in at quarterback. It's too much money in the room for them to keep Cam Newton. The longer it goes on, the more likely it is that either they're going to send him somewhere with possibly a pick, which would be, that would be aces for us. If we could get him and let's say a third or a fourth round pick out of the Panthers, and we're getting someone who's a genuine competition who fits our offense, which he would if he's healthy. If that's no commitment for us other than taking on the contract with the possibility of being able to get rid of him down the road if needs be, if he isn't well enough to continue playing, that would make sense. But it would need to be sort of round about that sort of higher mid-level pick for me, to take on the risk of him not being able to go at anywhere near the level that he's been with the contract value that he has. So that's a good place to start. I mean, obviously you've got other quarterbacks that are out there. There's a lot of rumour now with Rivers going to the Colts that Jacoby Brissett is going to either be on the trade block or possibly, whether they're going to look to release him. Everybody seems to want PJ Walker out of the XFL, it seems, in Chicago, or certainly a lot of them do. So if you want to look at the XFL, he's a person you might be able to go to. But in realism, you've got people like Jameis Winston. The market is drying up for him. So, yeah, he might want to eat a W, and that, just the thought of it alone, seeing him do it, horrifies me as a Brit. Just him putting his fingers in, it's just horrible. Just please don't do that ever again, Jameis, wherever you go. But he's had his eyes sorted, apparently, which is going to fix all of those interceptions. Well, if you want a guy who does throw a really nice deep ball, that is, he's not an outstanding threat to run the ball, but he is reasonably athletic. He's someone that you could potentially look at. I want no part of Andy Dalton as a trade or Nick Foles as a trade, unless they're coming with a pick or they are released. Potentially then if they're released and they're going to sign a much more competitive deal, by all means. But those would have to come with higher compensation with them for us to take it on, for me to be even remotely interested. I know a lot of people talk about Nick Foles. Nick Foles is extremely limited. I mean, when he played against the Bears and they went on and won the Super Bowl, they got close to it, but the year that he won the Super Bowl, he was limited in terms of what he can do. Don't get me wrong, he reads quite well. He's a nice backup to have, but he certainly got paid very well when he got franchised that first time around. Turned that into a very, very nice deal with the Jaguars, which they're now thinking, oh my God, we've got to get out of this. And it's a lot of money for them to commit to someone who's not in a million worlds going to beat out Gardner Minshew by the looks of things. So if that's the case and they need to get rid of him, then by all means send him our way with a first round pick or a second round pick, or potentially a number of picks if you want to go second round. Those are guys that I would want to steer clear of, and anyone else I think would cause uproar in Chicago. If you're looking for Jeff Driscoll coming in, or someone along those lines, those sort of things would probably cause palpitations in most of Chicago. Certainly on ESPN, all of the haters that are there. Cappy would probably be okay with it, but
Rivers is indeed going to Indianapolis, expected to be a one-year deal for $25 million. So I got to ask you this: you're the GM. I'm looking at your board. Who do you have as your number one priority guy that you're really trying to talk to his agent and trying to lure him here to work with Mitchell Trubisky in that quarterback room?
You've got to look at someone who fits. So you're looking at a quarterback market which is drying up quickly. I mean, obviously Tom Brady we're looking is out of the question. Jameis Winston, too many issues there for me to want to be involved with that. You're really then looking at the sort of the bottom end of the market. Kyle Sloter played pretty well. Detroit, when he came in, played pretty well. But do you want a Kyle Sloter? Do you want Blake Bortles? Do you want Matt Ward? There's not a lot there. So what are you looking at realistically? For me, of the guys who are left, you're looking at someone who's either going to be cut or is going to be trade bait. So it's the guys that we've really already spoken about. For me, the one that makes the most sense in terms of if we're getting something back with him would be Newton, and I'd be pushing that if I was GM. I would say, look, you can't possibly commit all of the money that you've got already committed to your quarterback position. We know you're moving on from what you've already got. We are unable to test his health. No one's going to be able to test his health. So you need to think about, what are you going to do with Cam? We're willing to take on the contract if you can send with it a third round pick this year and a fourth next year. You're cheeky. You go for whatever you think is too much to ask for. So it might even start off with a second round, but you want to send him with a second? No, go away. So then you pick up the phone again. So all right, then, well, the best that you're going to do from us is if he comes with a third, and then you hang up. And you wait at the end of the day, because they're going to have a lot of money committed to quarterbacks. It's going to restrict them doing other things. And they do. They're having a scheme change, let's not forget, to the guy who ran the LSU scheme last year. So he's going to want to have lots more receiving threats for the Panthers to have. And obviously there's a strong draft for that this year. Probably Justin Jefferson's going to make sense for them in the first round. Well, obviously it's a case of whatever they've got left at the end of the day. So yeah, they're going to be reticent to give up draft picks. But at the end of the day, if they want rid of him, it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market for him. And that's the way I would be looking at it. A last case scenario would be, for me, it would be 1 Newton, 2 Dalton, 3, and please no Foles. But I mean, that would need to be, I would want something significant back if I was taking on Foles in his contract, because he's going to be just a very highly paid backup to Mitch Trubisky for me. A lot of people think he's fantastic, but he can't push the ball downfield. He doesn't have great arm strength. He's not particularly great at reading the field. Yet he knows the offense. He knows how to read, but he throws plenty of interceptions. I'm not a fan of him at all. So that's where I'm going for me. And Jameis Winston, what was he wanted pre-season? He wanted $30 million a year.
Yeah.
He's going to have to wait a long time in free agency to get any offer if that's what his expectation is.
Yeah,
he'd be lucky to get into 20s, I think, realistically, with who we've already seen go elsewhere. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater is the mark and he's $20 million, then Jameis is going to have to be that or less. I would have thought.
Well, I'm trying to remember who it was that said recently Jameis Winston needs to go to a team and sit for a year because he needs a fire lit under him. He needs to control his game, and he appears to be all over the field. I don't recall who it was that said that, but maybe that would be the best scenario for him, is to see that market has dried up and that he is going to probably end up signing a contract, competing for a job on somebody's team. But you don't want him anywhere near Hallis Hall, huh?
Look, like I say, I mean, if his eyes were the issue with throwing all the interceptions, that's one thing. But let's not forget he's got ghosts in his past. He's got skeletons in his closet. He comes with that. We know how reticent Ryan Pace is to do it. For me, there is upside in taking him. He is a good passer of the ball when he throws it in the right places. But again, scheme-wise, is he going to fit the scheme? Well, it's going to be Nagy's call, and I think Nagy's going to want to go for something that is more proven in terms of running the concepts that he wants to run. And for me, that's why Newton probably makes the most sense, because if you want a guy who can run an RPO or a speed option, he's a guy that can legitimately do that and be a significant threat at it. In terms of being able to throw the ball deep, he can do that. He's got a decent arm, or used to have a decent arm. We don't know anymore. That's the downside with Cam Newton. In terms of Jameis is he throws a nice deep ball. That's what I can say about him. He throws a lot of touchdowns, but he has some very good receivers there. And he's not really been pushed that much in his career at the book. He's always been the guaranteed starter, number 1 overall pick. But for me, that would actually be potentially, it could work. You could have 2 people fighting for the position that neither of them you're particularly happy about. But I mean, what better way to get the best out of whoever it is that's going to actually start? And they're going to have a fresh start with what is, at the end of the day, the most attractive thing that we have going for us about the QB room is DiFilippo in terms of what he adds. So I would be confident with DiFilippo's input, and it's going to be Nagy's choice at the end of the race. It's going to be someone that fits what he thinks he wants, which, that's why I think everyone's talking Foles, but for me, God, no. Anything but just too much money for him.
Yeah, there's not a lot of high hopes that Nick Foles can come over here and really provide much competition. But
everywhere he's been a starter, he's always lost the job, hasn't he? He's never been able to retain a starting job. He's good.
He's a good backup. Yeah, he's a good backup. That's exactly what he is. And even
he's not a $19 million backup.
Oh my goodness, yeah, a good and an expensive backup quarterback.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. All right, George, I want to remind everybody that we've got a Bears 100 Proof Wednesday night here on our Mixlr.com channel. Make sure you join us, and Draft on Tap on Thursday, and then I believe the guys on I Have a Stream.
Shy Fans in the Stands. I believe Shy Fans in the Stands are covering that marble race we saw earlier in the week.
Tonight, Shy Fans in the Stands. How could I forget? Yeah. I am so sorry, Greg Braggs and Joe Mandel. You guys are going to be here on Mixlr tonight. And then it's 100 Proof on Wednesday, and Draft on Tap Thursday, and then I believe I Have a Stream on Friday. So that's the lineup of Bears Barroom Radio Network shows. So stay with us. We'll be bringing you the latest on stuff. Mr. George Bayliss, the goodbyes are all yours. Take it away.
Well, I'm sorry about the internet connection and the virus and all the rest of it, and I hope we've at least been entertaining, if nothing else. But stay tuned to the network. Obviously, Shy Fans tonight, and then you've got Draft on Tap, the boys at 100 Proof. Always worth a listen. All of that stuff is great content for me. I listen to it, so why shouldn't you? Stay tuned to the Bears Barroom Network. Take care of each other, and remember to wash your hands.